What's up, everybody? Taylor Cooper here. Happy Thanksgiving week. Hope everybody's having a good time and enjoying the holiday. Listen, CJ and I came up with a very cool idea not that long ago. That CJ has a ton of just super interesting people in his phone. He's my technical advisor and spiritual guru, and I suspect that he is something like that for a lot of other people as well. So CJ is going to call people on his phone, and we're going to talk to him. And in the first episode here, we have Alan Beiler from Amish Mafia. Without further ado, here's CJ. Hey, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
All right, so I guess the best way to say is Alan Beiler's on the phone here. He was in Amish Mafia. I call him the Amish Ambassador because pretty much every TV show with Amish in the title, Alan has his hand in. Because what you've done, Amish Mafia, Breaking Amish. Aren't you in that Amish ghost story too?
So yeah, we did it was the Amish, which is in Holmes County. There was Amish at the Altar, which was about Amish weddings. And that was actually the first show that I've actually did because it was based around Amish cooking. And I had an interview with an interview with the Food Network, and we had everything set up, had the interview. They loved it. I was going to start an Amish cooking channel. And, about the same time, I thought of Amish Mafia, and then that kind of took the front runner. And then Breaking Amish came, so I never actually did do the Amish show yet. So thanks for reminding me.
Hey, there's always something on the table. But
you know it.
I'm trying to think. First time I met you was probably with Travis Knight when all you guys, Crazy Dave, who was it? Merlin was there. And a couple of when you guys came to Westchester in the limo.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay.
I think that was the first time I officially met you.
That would make sense. I honestly was trying to think of the same thing. And from the first time I've met you, like you were at my mom's funeral. You know what I mean? You were at my wedding. You've been a part of my life for a lot of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you're always there for me too. I think the biggest question I get asked about you, and it's always the first question, are you really Amish?
And that's the most important question, brother, because as you will soon know, not this project, but the next project, there's a project I'm working on right now, which is going to be freaking amazing. Just you wait.
Oh man!
I actually had the idea about this project when I had Amish Mafia, and this one is going to be in the world we live in today, and with the way everything's going. Just wait. So we actually shot the sizzle for it last Saturday, but my next project is going to be called From Brooklyn to the Buggy, and it's going to capture my life in real life, and it's going to be how, when, and why. So yes, to answer your question, I was adopted by an Amish Mennonite family. The difference, we can get into the difference between Amish and Mennonites. But to make it really quick and really short, my mom, when she was 15 years old, was raped by a Brooklyn, New York police officer. And she was on the abortion table waiting and just sitting there waiting. And somebody comes in the door, and it's the janitor. And the janitor's like, "Man, what are you doing here, little girl?" Like, he looked at his watch, and she's like, "Well, I'm waiting for the doctor." And the janitor says, "Ma'am, the doctor went home 3 hours ago. Get out of here." So I'm not even supposed to be here. So every day that I have on this earth is a gift. So I try to use it the best way that I can possible. So my mom, she figured, yes, she's going to have me. Thank God she did. At age 16, I was born. When she was 16 years old, I was born in Brooklyn at the Coney Island Hospital in New York. and my dad was a very abusive person. I'm deaf in my right ear, probably from being used as a soccer ball. But to keep me safe, she wanted to get me out of New York. And in the 70s, my mom was Italian and Polish, and my grandparents were hardcore Italians, and Polish and Italians didn't really quite mix back. Dominican, and my dad was Dominican, so Dominicans, Polish, and Italian, they didn't mix. So my mom needed to get me out of there. So she got me out. She one of the neighbors in New York, knew of the Beilers here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, an Amish Mennonite family. And my dad was actually, Mr. Beiler was actually an Amish Mennonite preacher at the time. And so we came to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We stayed with them for a little while, and talks came about of adopting me. And the church, I was the first biracial adoption here in Lancaster County, and the church wasn't having it. So the church was like, "Nah, Mr. Beiler, it's either you preach or you don't have that black boy." So my dad was, he needed some time to think about it. So I went to a foster family in Virginia, where I went to school with Vern Troyer, Mini-Me.
Oh, wow.
We went to the same school in Stuart Strath, Virginia. I was there for a year and some, and then Mr. Beiler said, "You know what? I'd much rather give that kid a chance in preaching." So he abandoned his position as a preacher, and they adopted me at age 9. And I was a Beiler from then on out, and I still am. And I'm thankful that we're still best friends to this day. I just talked to my mom this morning and we're very, very close friends. And so, yes, to answer your question in a very long answer was yes and no. I am Amish Mennonite.
Well, I appreciate the long answer, because that actually, I always assumed Mennonite and Amish were kind of close, but kind of different. And now you're telling me they're the same.
Awesome. I'm glad you asked. Because so that's a huge misconception. Like the thing about it is there are probably around 15 to 20 different types of Amish and Mennonites. You have your black bumpers. You have some that'll do this. Some believe this way. Some believe that way. Some women don't believe in shaving their legs or their mustaches or anything, so you have different types. And so the big thing is with Amish and Mennonites are Amish, they drive the buggy. And there are different types of Amish. You have the ones with the yellow buggy. You have some with the green buggies. You have some with the black and the brown, but the buggies, they're Amish. And then you have Mennonites also who use buggies. So that's another huge story. But if you're from the area, you can tell an Amish and a Mennonite buggy without thinking twice. So that's kind of just a given around here. And now there are some Amish Mennonites who drive cars and have electricity, but my mom, she had the covering, and my sisters wore the dress, and we weren't allowed to have musical instruments or television, and grew up like the Amish, but with electricity pretty much, and cars is pretty much the only difference.
Something that piqued my fascination there. What in case people who don't know, what is the difference between an Amish and a Mennonite buggy?
So the Mennonite buggy is going to be more square, and an Amish buggy is going to be like a rounder type of buggy, if that makes sense. And the colors, like you won't ever see a yellow Mennonite buggy. You'll see like a yellow Amish buggy. They're like really, really, really plain in like upstate New York, or you'll say like a gray buggy. So a Mennonite will never be in a gray buggy because Amish have gray buggies. You know what I mean? So you kind of learn to like figure out what's what. And the dress, you can also tell by the dress. Like Amish women, wear the dress, and Mennonite women wear the dress. Well, Mennonite women are allowed to have flowers and patterns and designs on their dress where Amish women aren't. Okay. But then in some districts of Amish, some of the women now are allowed to wear like pinstripes and, small faded flowers, etc.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
So I want to jump into Amish Mafia next.
I was actually credited as a Amish expert for Lifetime, which is awesome. But go ahead. I love Amish Mafia, my favorite. Let's go.
All right. Well, the other question that once people find out I know you and a couple of the other guys, One, always a question, is it real? I always tell them it's reality TV. I don't know if you want to tackle any more to that part before I ask. All right.
So, I get that, seriously, I get that question asked almost every day from somebody online, from somebody on social media, from somewhere. Hey, is it real? Or, hey, listen, maybe they're doing a rerun in Alaska or something. And I get a message at 4:00 in the morning. Hey, listen, if you need help with Levi, we're here. Be alert and on standby, whatever the heck it was. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like, the funny thing about it is when I first dreamt of Amish Mafia, and this is way, way, way behind the scenes. It's when I was younger, when I was growing up in the Amish Mennonite church, there was a group of us, and we called ourselves the Amish Mafia. And the only thing Mafia we did was throw whoopie pies at buggies. You know what I mean? That's the only gangster thing we did. There was never anything Mafia about it. It was just a name we gave ourselves. And so when I decided in my head that, dude, I don't think I want to wake up at 4:00 every morning swinging a hammer for the rest of my life and that being my legacy. That's not the way I want to go out. I want to put my name on at least something small. You know what I mean? Just something. So that's when I was like, you know what? Television is awesome. Because my whole life growing up, I was always creating businesses, man. I'd start a business, watch it succeed, and then boom, be bored, want to move on. I'd start another business, watch it succeed, get employees, boom. I was like, this got to stop. I can't do this my whole life. So I got into television because I could make a show, watch it succeed, boom, move on. My life, right? Mm-hmm. So I got into Amish Mafia with this idea, and it took me 7 years. It took me 7 years of begging, no lawyer, 8th grade education, didn't know what I was doing, sending basically spoof emails. Hey, I got this idea. This is who I am. You want to listen? And finally, there was a company in New York finally did listen. And I don't want to put their name out right now because right now at this point in my life, I'm solo. It's just me, and I have an amazing team of just me, a camera, and another amazing producer. And let me tell you something, we're taking the world right now. But I took this idea to them. And actually, I took the cooking show first. The first time I met them, it was about the cooking show. And it was funny because I was just looking at the emails the other day from like 2009. I'm like, holy smokes. So we meet with the cooking show, and then we keep chatting kind of like we are now. And, I keep telling them about my friends when I was Amish. We called ourselves the Amish Mafia. There was another thing I was trying to promote was, just like an Amish experience, Amish kids that, I've never been to New York. I want to go see what it's like, and so that's kind of when Breaking Amish came in. But the first show that actually really took off was Breaking Amish. We actually started filming Breaking Amish first, and then we got into Amish Mafia. So it was kind of weird just how everything kind of fell into place and how it just kind of, made its own kind of wheels and took off. But then it was kind of very mishandled. Like I wish that I would have had a little bit more knowledge and, maybe a lawyer or something just to let me know. Because with the one show with Breaking Amish, so I had the show, right? They had a couple seasons of it, kick-ass show, good show. And I was obviously getting, a paycheck for being the creator. And I was also getting so it was doing very, very well. Well, in television world, as I'm sure you know this, they're shiesty, man. They'll cut a rung off. They'll cut a rung off a ladder just to get them one half a step higher. And so what they did was they changed the name of my show from Breaking Amish to Return to Amish. They kept all the cast, they kept all the everything about it other than the name, which then X'd me out of a lot of money as being the so-called creator of that show. Which obviously, if I would have had a lawyer and I wouldn't have been Amish about it, I would have probably been taken care of a lot better. But learning experience, exactly why I am who I am today. All them, every single one of them is a learning. Every single one, brother. You just got to learn what happened. Yeah. Why did it happen, man? And figure out and learn from it and go and just don't do it again. Because if you want to do it again, that's your decision. You know what I mean? That's totally up to you. Ain't nobody making that call but you. But if you can learn what you did wrong and correct it, tweak it, some may call it, and just go with it, you'll go, man. You'll go. Exactly what I did in the stock market, but I'm sure we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So how far apart was Breaking Amish and Amish Mafia? Because I
Dude,
feel
they're
like
all together. Honestly, all together. I was casting for both at the same time. Actually, Merlin was cast to be in Breaking Amish. And if you know Breaking Amish, there's a character named Jeremiah. Jeremiah was cast to be in Amish Mafia. You know what I mean? So it's funny little things like that where like, I don't think Merlin made Amish. Merlin really did go in his role in Amish Mafia. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And to go back, just to backstep a couple questions. So yes, everybody is who they are in Amish Mafia. Merlin is Amish. Levi is Amish. Alvin is Amish. Like the difference between Alvin and Levi is Alvin is shunned. Levi could literally go to church tomorrow, literally, and be so cool with the church. Nothing ever would be said or done. Levi would be good. Now, Alvin would then have to take classes. He would have to rejoin the church because he shunned and he did something against the church that put him in bad favor with the church. So he would have to take all these steps to improve himself and to prove himself to the church before they would let him join. But then Levi, same with Esther. Esther could join as well. So yes, everybody pretty much was who they said they were, in that show. So when people ask me, I go 75-25, 75% of it is true, but 25% of it, I call it the Hollywood twist. They put their little spin on it to kind of make it go.
What are some things that you would have to do to get shunned from the Amish church?
Again, that's going to vary by district, but in some district, but simply by me talking on a phone or simply by me listening to the radio.
Wow. Okay.
Wearing a baseball cap. Deciding to wear letters on my T-shirt instead of plain T-shirt. Yeah. Or girls, hey, I shaved my legs today. That could get you. Honestly, that could get you shunned. Isn't that ironic in this day and age?
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild.
But yeah, it can be the pettiest little thing, man. And the thing about it is shunning. Yes, it is still practiced, but a lot of the Amish are kind of they abide by it, but they don't really practice it. If that makes sense.
I got you.
So, well, I guess to take the curtain back a little more, I remember behind the scenes one day for an episode of Amish Mafia at, I think the concept of the episode was you and Merlin throwing a barn party to raise money to fight Levi. I believe was the context of the episode. But I remember
the Uber hut party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have that. I found that T-shirt the other day.
There are still people to this day come to me and say, dude, that was probably one of the craziest parties I've been to.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It's just so funny because the band that was there, Gunmetal Gray, great friends of mine. I'm actually potentially thinking about maybe doing a more of a better, photo shoot for them. But yeah, man, what a great night that was. Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
what goes into like a barn party like that? Like what level of planning goes into that?
Ours was more of a put together. I mean, okay, obviously, yes, ours was put together for TV. But now, if you want to go with me on a real field party, hut party, barn party, this is how it goes down, right? And this is how it goes down. Because trust me, I've been there. You pull up, and it's usually out in the middle of nowhere. And you pull up, and it's like, hey, the address is, such and such a road, and you got to go in between this fence post and that fence post. And you drive back in, and you kind of get back in, and then there's a line of, cars or buggies or whatever. And then there's some people standing out front, and you actually have to prove, basically, that you're Amish. Like, thou bist du? Like, who are you? Thou kennst du da? Or who do you know here? Who invited you? and maybe sometimes there's a cover charge. And then you get through. Sometimes they won't even let everybody through. You get through, and then you drive down. And I'm actually taking you through the last one I was at. You drive down through, and it opens up. And let me tell you something. It's something that you don't see on TV. It's something that you only, if you haven't witnessed it, you'll never believe it. But there's a band playing way down at the corner of the field, and it's just thousands of people from Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I mean, you name it. They're just thousands of people, and they're all Amish.
That's incredible,
right?
Because
and so the band's playing, and let me tell you something. The band's not. They ain't no joke. They're playing AC/DC. I mean, you know how hard that is. Like to make it sound legit. Like that's hard. You know what I mean? They're playing the realest of the realest music, and you're like, it's almost surreal. You almost don't believe what you're seeing. So you go down in, and then there's, you start mingling with people, and it's any drug in the book is at these Amish parties. I mean, and anything you could ever dream, desire, or think about is probably at these parties.
I've heard, and I don't know if it's a myth. I don't know because I've never done any research about it, but I'm sure you can answer this question. What is there a difference between the laws that average Americans follow and the laws that American Amish people follow? Is it like as far as like drug possession, for example, or anything like that?
In the eyes of the law, no, they will all get charged the same. But I do feel that there is a slighter eye batted towards the Amish, if that makes sense.
Right.
They've been doing it for forever. Let's just let them go. And I think I think it's like that with not just law enforcement. I think it's like that with everybody. You know what I mean? Like it's just how they are. It's who they are. You know what I mean? Let's just let them do what they do, no matter, but then you do hear the stories about, you hear stories about parties in Ohio getting, raided and busted. And,
right.
So they do have laws that, abide to them as well. But there are parts of the Amish culture that they don't have to abide by the laws that you and I would have to abide by.
Okay.
But I mean, as far as like you and I have to provide car insurance to legally drive on the road, they don't have to provide. All they have to do is pay into the Amish aid, which, pretty much that's a whole story in itself.
What is Amish aid? I've never heard of that before.
So the Amish aid is the banking system that the Amish use. So like when you pay your dues, or when you pay everything gets paid in the Amish community. Everything that you and I pay to the government, the Amish pay to Amish aid.
Okay. And that just kind of
I really think there should be a movie about Amish aid being made into an actual stock on the stock market exchange. I think that would be hilarious.
Well,
but no,
here's an example of Amish aid that I've when I used to deliver for the pharmacy. One of my stops was at an Amish farm, who the couple, their kid got thrown off his horse, and he was on a ventilator. So they were no longer, from how they explained it to me, they were no longer part of the Amish church since he was using the ventilator, whatever group they belonged to. But the Amish were paying for the medical bills and the prescriptions that were getting dropped off for him.
Yeah, that would have probably been through the Amish aid. Like that would have been the Amish aid that was paying you.
That's really interesting stuff, because I never even knew that something like that existed, but it makes total sense. And, as far as like the laws and stuff, I always kind of assumed that was a myth. Like, I don't remember, it was like a long time ago. We were skipping school, going to Shady Maple, and somebody was just like, "Oh yeah, Amish people, they can't get in trouble." And I was like, "What do you mean? That sounds crazy to me."
they're like, oh no, laws don't apply to them. And I was just like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I heard later on that it was kind of, you know, more or less like what you said, but I just wanted to. This is the first time I've ever had the chance to ask somebody in this capacity. I don't want to just walk up to a random Amish person and be like, "Hey, is everything legal for you, man? Like you can do whatever you want." Like that's, you know, that'd be kind of awkward.
Yeah, no, it is. And you know, the funny thing about it is I live about 3 minutes from Shady Maple. That's so funny.
That was our like, let's skip the first couple periods and go get some breakfast.
Right. And literally everybody, I had a guy that I worked with from, he was from Yugoslavia. He was Vladimir. He's a famous rock star from Yugoslavia. He was on a stamp, and he owns a restaurant in New York, Batulia. And I was working with him last week. An awesome guy, man. Good guy. We had so much fun. And he was saying that as well. It's crazy.
So did you ever participate in? Well, did you ever do Rumspringa?
So the Amish Mennonites, they don't do Rumspringa. I had a youth group. Like I was a part of a youth group, and we had like events every weekend, and we would go on like singing tours where we would like have a course, and we would take a bus and go like to different other Amish Mennonite churches and have programs and stuff. Played volleyball and softball and, you know, that kind of stuff. But I never really experienced Rumspringa because that's just not what Amish Mennonites did. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of my friends were Amish and they were in Rumspringa. So it was kind of, it was kind of the same thing. But
what is Rumspringa?
Okay. So when you turned 16, when an Amish kid turns 16, well, it's more like 18, but it's basically 16. The parents are okay with you doing whatever you want. So in other words,
kind of testing the waters a little bit.
Oh, yeah. As soon as you get that age, you can do whatever you want. And the Amish faith will be okay with it. Just hopefully that you get that out of your system, and when you're done, you come back Amish. That's the only drawback.
What's the time limit on that?
And that there is no time limit. That's the thing. There's 50. There's, you know, some people die on Rumspringa that are that old. But it's almost their way of still being Amish and having the graces of their family, because we're still in Rumspringa, or, you know what I mean? Instead of like being shunned and, you know, so I would much rather be considered in Rumspringa and have a cell phone than join the Amish church and have a cell phone and get caught with it and be shunned. You know what I mean? So most of them just prefer just to stay on Rumspringa now. And a lot of them, I would love to get an actual percentage of how many people are actually going back to the Amish faith now after Rumspringa, which I feel like it's drastically dropping off, because there's a lot of Amish people who have found true religion, you know, like true Christianity. And that was a huge thing with the Amish. Like even today, if you were to ask an Amish person just randomly, hey, why do you do what you do? Why do you believe why you believe? And they're going to say, and I quote you, they will say this, they'll say, well, it's just how we do. It's what we've always done. And it's what we'll always do. It's just how we do. So there's really no basis backing up why you do what you do. No. My dad did this. My dad's dad did this. And that's just the way I'm going to do. So that's why they do basically what they do, you know, which is kind of, why do you wear an Amish hat? I don't know. It's just what we do. Like, seriously, that's the weirdest, stupidest excuse in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is pretty wild. I mean, it's just, it's almost like just a tradition for them at this point.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of more people, there's a lot of people calling it more of a cult. And that, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm ready to call it that yet, but I don't necessarily feel. And the one reason I have left, and I left when I did, was because I necessarily didn't feel like, the one reason I left was because the church was, on my back, because I kept my antenna on my dad bought me a 93 Camaro. I kept my antenna on my car, and you're not allowed to do that in the Amish Mennonites. And to the point where I was questioning, am I going to go to heaven or am I going to go to hell because of this antenna?
Wow.
And then finally I was like, you know what? Like if that God looks at me and says, oh, you almost had it, except he's holding the antenna. You know what I'm saying?
That would
I
suck.
would be upset. Yeah. So that wasn't the God that I wanted to believe in. And the God that I have now is a much nicer and much more realistic God.
Accepting of your personal choices and things of that nature, and
Exactly.
technology. So you may have already covered this, and I apologize if you did. But did you leave the Amish faith prior to the Amish Mafia show or after?
Oh no, this was way after.
Okay.
So I left when I was like 19.
Okay.
I'm now 40. I'm now 42. Amish Mafia was filmed we started in 2008, 2009. So that gives you a little bit of the time frame.
Okay.
But I left when I was 19. I actually had an Amish Mennonite girlfriend, and it was to the point where it kind of got a little. It was never gonna. It was the person that I was at the time that I was going to be. It was never going to work. You know what I mean? And so that's why that time it was just a time for me to not be a part of that anymore.
Here's one of the questions I've always wanted to ask you, and I always forget about it because it's something that I see a lot. People calling you out as trying to take advantage of the Amish. And me knowing, I know you're not trying to do that, but I've never heard,
my response to that.
Yeah, your answer for it.
So the reason I got into television is I had a good friend when the Amish people, we grow up and we're raised so naive. Like we have no television. We don't know nothing of the outside world. Eighth grade education. So it's like, we're very sheltered. And then when somebody flashes lots of money, when somebody flashes a good life, when somebody flashes all that in front of you, you kind of throw it out the window. You kind of throw everything out the window. I myself wanted to be the person, the mediator between Hollywood and the Amish, not letting Hollywood do that to the Amish. That was why I started. And I think I've succeeded. I think everybody that I've worked with up to this point can say that about me. They can say that, man, that this guy did. If there's any questions to this day with any Amish shows, I get asked my opinion basically, because people want to know, should I do this? How is this going to make my character look in 5 years? Yeah, I regret some of the things that I did on Amish Mafia, but a lot of my mistakes that I've made in my lifetime were captured on Amish Mafia, and I'm thankful for that because anybody in this day and age, everybody loves the internet. Everybody loves to dig and dig and dig. You know what I mean? All my stuff's out there. So
yeah, it was.
That's the way. That's what gave me closure and happiness about that. The situation sucks, and it sucked, but you move on. You know what I mean? You make yourself better, and you move on.
Do you think the TV show, when it aired all those news clippings, made it over dramatic compared to what it was?
Oh my. Honestly, I at that part of my life, I've forgiven. There's a lot of people I had to forgive over that part of my life. And part of me forgiving them was also forgetting that. So that's a part of my life where that was a huge motivator in my life. I use that I've used that to motivate me to who I am and to where I am today as a slingshot and a propeller.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't talk about it, and I don't dwell on it. And I do that about anything. I'm a today kind of person. Like even yesterday, I don't like talking about yesterday because there's so much better about today and tomorrow than what there was about yesterday.
Well, I think that's why me and you get along so well, because you know, I can tell you what I have coming up, what I'm doing today. If you ask me, like, you know, even when thinking the first time I met you was, how many years ago was that? Like, it's already happened. So it's not, there's no effort that needs to be given into it because that's behind you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So what have you been doing during this whole pandemic thing? Oh, you'll have to go into, like, I know you're working on the projects, but what else besides that, since you already said that in the beginning?
Well, I started on the project. Hold on a second. I started on the project, and there's a few other projects that I was working on that have been going extremely well. I'm working with Rockstar Design. I'm not even sure if you met Dave Starr or not.
Yeah,
but
I met him at your wedding.
Yes, an amazing guy. Him and I have teamed up, and we're conquering the world. And we also have F&P Productions, which is doing our camera work and editing work, which is they've been killing it. So since the pandemic, man, since everything kind of, so to even go back further, I think the last time you saw me, I was probably about 100 and some pounds heavier. I went on this quest of self-control and moderation, and on my 40th birthday, I made a vow that I wanted to be here for my kids a lot longer. My four beautiful kids, and my wife. I wanted to be here longer, and so my favorite dessert was Boston cream pie. So I would buy a Boston cream pie, and I would put it in the freezer. And Tuesday would come around, and what I did was no sugar except for Sundays. So Tuesday come around, you crack open the freezer, take a peek. Oh man, I cannot wait for Sunday, CJ. I can't wait. That's going to be so good. Shut the freezer. Thursday comes around, you crack the freezer, grin. Oh boy, 3 more days, you know. Sunday comes around and you crack the freezer and you're like, I made it all week without it. Why do I need it now? You know, you train yourself to that point.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. Now, granted, I drank about 20 cups of coffee a day, but that's how I got to my secret weight loss, which has been amazing. I've never felt as good as I feel today. I wouldn't recommend the diet to anybody because it's not healthy. You need to drink water. You need to eat healthy. You can't do that. But yeah, man, that was good. And then I started with a morning ritual, like a morning routine. Like I wake up at 4 o'clock every morning. Even this morning on my weekend, Sunday morning, I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And the first thing I do is, before I even look at my phone, I first of all, give thanks. And I appreciate the reason that I'm here today. I go, why did I make it today where so many people didn't? Even some of my best friends didn't make it, Well, why am I given another chance to make it? So I try to make my priorities number one. And that you hear that a lot. You got to make your priorities number one. So I've tried to make my priorities number one. So that's the first thing I do. And then the second thing that I do is I ask God that he puts a hedge of protection around my friends, including you.
I appreciate
I have a lot of friends. I have friends that guard the president for a living. I had a friend the other day message me and say, "Hey, listen, man, I'm going to go serve 8 warrants and they're all murderers. Just do one of them pray things for me in this day and age. Can you imagine? So in a world filled with darkness, man, just be the light."
Yeah.
So that's what I do. That's the second thing that I do. Then the third thing that I do is I turn my stock market channel on. So what happened is during the stock market, during the pandemic, so somebody once told me, man, when it's raining soup, never turn your bowl upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for a little bit. So when the pandemic hit, everybody's like, I need more stimulus, man. I need money. I can't do this. Meanwhile, my eBay store has been blowing up. Everybody was buying on eBay. Everybody's buying online. And I'm thinking to myself, I should probably look into the stock market. Well, one of my wife's friends one of her nurses at a Sarah Care, where the hospice that she works at, that she runs, got me into Robinhood. Said, man, you need to get into Robinhood. You do good in that. So I got into it. And I was just looking the other day. Well, actually, just this morning I was looking again. I look all the time. You still have time to get in. But I bought stock into Neo. So now Neo, when I bought it, it was $8 a share.
Uh-huh.
Neo over last Friday hit $53 a share. So now imagine in 4 or 5 months, the amount of money that you can make just being smart and being wise. Electric vehicles, and I'm giving out knowledge that only you should hear, brother, but electric vehicles is the way of the future.
I drive a car that's mostly electric.
Get into the stock market and buy into Solo, buy into Workhorse, buy into Neo, buy into any kind of EV vehicle. Don't do it for yourself. Don't do it to get rich tomorrow. Don't do it to get rich in 5 years. But let me tell you something. Each one of my kids are going to be set because I'm stacking up on shares of GM, stacking up on shares of Ford. You know, and the funny thing about it is I learned, again, an eighth grade Amish education, no training at this. I learned how to trade options.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned how to make myself a substantial amount of money on a weekly basis, just trading options on a weekly basis. Because if you learn how to do it, and you know how to do it. You just have to jump on the right train to get off on the next stop. And if you're an options trader, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I learned how to do that. And a couple of weeks ago, $5,500. Yeah, that's pocket change to some people, and that's nothing to nobody. But yet, for me to do that self-taught, you know what I mean? That was a huge pat on my back, so to speak.
Yeah, that's amazing. So do you are you still doing the eBay store? Because then we'll get into what exactly you put on there.
Yeah, I still do the eBay store. When I was doing television, in between seasons and in between shows, like I was bored, you know, and I love antiques. I grew up around antiques with my dad, and I simply love finding something out of nothing, like making something out of nothing. My life has been, I was nothing, and I'm not saying that I'm something, but I'm a lot more than I was. So I love making nothings. I love making somethings out of nothings. And so for me to find something that I bought at a Goodwill for $4.99 and sell it for $199, that's encouraging to me, and that's how I live my life. Even boiling it down to, I'm out for lunch with my family, and I see a military guy wearing a military hat. I'll tell the waitress I want to pay for his meal. Always pay it forward, but making something out of nothing, and always finding that opportunity to let my light shine. What I sell is, I like I said, making something out of nothing. So when I was doing television, you know, in between shows and seasons, you know, there was a dry spell, and you know, I loved antiques, and so I would go into estate auctions. I would go to storage unit auctions, and I would buy stuff, and you know, the bigger stuff I would sell at auctions, other auctions, and then the smaller stuff I started an eBay store, and I would sell it on eBay. It was doing good, and up until 5 months ago, everything. So, just for instance, I have a room in my house, and it's just pretty much all beer stuff. I don't even really drink beer, but it was like old Budweiser Clydesdales and old Stroh's signs. And so I'm looking at it one day, and I'm thinking, holy smokes, if I had $100 right now, it would buy me 150 shares of Ford. And then I'm thinking, that sign is probably only going to be worth $100 in 10 years, or it may get even worse. It could be damaged, dented, or, you know, who knows? My kids might throw it away thinking it's trash when I die. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So everything that I was kind of holding on to is I don't know why, I sold, and I put it into the stock market. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I've been doing with eBay. Is what I sell is what I make on eBay, I invest into the stock market. That way I can keep it totally separate, and it's been working out great.
I'm trying to think. I think last time I was at your house, you had like 4 boxes. I think you got a storage locker that used to be a sports memorabilia store or something. And
Oh
you
my
were,
God, you have no idea, man. I've gotten units where, okay, so the coolest one, I'm gonna tell you about the coolest one and the worst one.
all
So
right.
the coolest one, I bought it, and I think the reason I bought it, it had a really nice toolbox and a floor jack. One of them really big, heavy duty garage guy floor jacks, and I always wanted one, and I think I bought the unit for $100. And so I bought the unit, and we're cleaning it out, and it's full of stuff. I mean, completely full. It's probably like a 9 by 12. You can get a picture in your head. And so we're loading it up, and I've come across the suitcase, and the suitcase is locked. And I shake it, and it just sounds like there's something in it. So I set it aside, and I'm like, maybe we'll come across the key while I'm cleaning up. And I threw it on the trailer and loaded up the rest of the stuff and kind of forgot about it. Loaded up. Didn't even really think about it, looking for a key. Kind of forgot about it till we came home, and we kind of got going home. And my father-in-law, you should see everybody. Everybody comes over, man. You're looking through stuff. It's awesome. Picking. You know what I mean? So we're looking through stuff, and oh, shoot, here's this suitcase. So I grabbed this suitcase, and I'm trying to figure out how to open it up, like, respectfully. And I'm like, who cares? You know what I mean? So I grab my tools, and I crack it open, pry it open, and I got it open, and it's filled with money. It's filled with foreign coins and foreign dollars and foreign gold and foreign silver, and it completely filled. And I cashed out maybe like $5,000, but I kept a lot because it was too cool to get rid of. Mm-hmm. And I've already paid for the unit. So why? So that was the coolest one. So then there was another one. And I'm not going to go into detail about this one because I don't want to get too dirty. But it was, let's just say that Carol was her name, because we found Polaroids. Carol was respectfully, Carol was a bigger woman, a bigger sized woman, from the Polaroids. And with apparently that she didn't like clothing in these Polaroids, and she didn't really like to keep things together. Things always like to be open in this Polaroid. And also where this Polaroid was a box of assistants, toy gadgets and stuff. So yeah, that was one of the worst. So I hope I kept that as mild as possible.
You can you don't have to keep it mild, just so you know. You can say whatever you want on this show, but
yeah, no. And until my 6-year-old starts quoting me.
How are the kids doing?
Man, the kids are good. My oldest now is 17. He's the typical football jock kind of guy. Youngest is 6, getting big, man. Just it's. You don't know how fast time flies until you have kids. Like, honestly, like CJ, it honestly seems like you were at Brooklyn's baby shower, weren't you?
No, I wasn't there for that, I don't think.
Okay. But okay. So when Brooklyn was pregnant, Bam had a show in Reading somewhere. And I feel, I still to this day, my wife and I still talk about it. I'm like, why would you go? She went to a Bam show, pregnant with Brooklyn, and we're hanging up out in the green room with you guys. I'm like,
yeah, I remember that.
That was, where was that? Reverb or something like
that?
Yeah,
it was at Reverb, and then they had the horseshoe bar, and half of it was VIP. And
yeah,
was that the New Year's Eve show?
I'm not even sure, but now if you think about that, CJ, that seems like maybe 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah,
but that was at least 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, because Novak was there and he wasn't sober.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I know. See, and that's why I think you and I have the same concept of pastime.
Yeah,
like you could have told me that show happened a week ago. I'd be like, that doesn't seem right, but he seems very adamant about it.
Right.
So you mentioned a new project that you're working on. You don't want to give too many details, but when do you think that some details might be available? Give some people something to look forward to.
Any day now. Any day now. the only reason it's been near and dear to my heart for a long time, and any day now, where we shot it, we're slicing it together, and we have a few interested outlets. I'm not sure yet which route I want to go yet. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure if I'm down with the reality TV side of things anymore, because everybody's more streaming and online now. So there's another opportunity. We may go that route as well. So I'm not sure, but I can promise you there will be a sizzle you will be talking about here real shortly.
Oh, nice.
That's great. Do you have anything to plug? Anything, tell people where to find you, stuff like that?
Just check out the Black Amish Man Experience. There's the Black Amish Man Experience on Facebook, where I try to keep up with the daily wind and grind of the Amish community, and a little bit about what I'm going on with. And I guess Parlor just came out. I just got my buddy Dan Bongino just verified me on Parlor, so I think everybody should check that out. Black Amish Man 717 over there, and also Instagram Black Amish Man 717. That's pretty much where I'm at. I'm very Amish. I don't really know how to do too much yet. I'm trying, but we're getting there.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Alan.
My pleasure. Anytime. I look forward to the next time.